Golden Shoppers! Welcome once again to my channel. This is Sir Job and welcome to Sir Job TV. Para sa lahat po ng mga new explorers tsaka newly discovered pa lang po sa akin channel, please don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for you to be updated with my future videos. So, on the previous videos na nakikita nyo sa aking YouTube channel, I discusses there the life and works of Jose Rizal. So, para sa umagang ito, bibigyan ko kayo ng discussion in line with the subject readings in Philippine history. So isa sa mga pinakamalaking tanong is kung civilized nga ba or hindi civilized ang mga Filipinos prior to the coming of the Spaniards here in the Philippines. So para sa araw na ito, i-justify po natin yan through this particular video. So ang pag-uusapan natin para sa umagang ito ay tungkol sa pre-colonial life of Filipino people, civilized or non-civilized. Welcome to my video number 106. So good morning once again, Golden Shoppers. Today is April 5, 2021 and today is Monday. Pero patuloy pa rin tayo magbibigay sa inyo ng meaningful learning here sa aking mismong YouTube channel. So na-mention ko na po kanina sa inyo na ang pag-uusapan natin sa umagang ito ay tungkol sa konsepto ng civilized na ba o hindi pa civilized ang mga Filipino bago pa man dumating ang mga colonizers. Because we're talking of the Spaniards, the Americans, and even the presence of the Japanese here in our country. So that is our focus for our discussion for this particular morning. But in order for us to understand, let us specify first the pre-colonial. The concept of pre-colonial, meaning to say, wala pang colonization nagaganap, wala pang control ng mga invaders and other nationalities na pumasok po dito sa ating bansa. Meaning to say, if we are going to picture out this particular situation, napakatahimik po, napaka-ganda po ng pamumuhay, napaka-peaceful po ng pamumuhay ng mga Filipino in this particular country. Though, ating i-highlight na hindi pa po tayo tinawag na mga Filipinos at a time at hindi pa rin po tinawag na Pilipinas or Philippines ang ating bansa. Basically, hindi natin alam na may Luzon, Visayas at saka Mindanao when we are talking of the pre-colonial period of our history. Okay, ladies and gentlemen. But in order for us to understand the criteria of civilization that we will be talking for this morning, let us first recognize the concept of the word culture, because basically that's very important to be understood first before going further to the criteria of civilization in the first place. So we have here the definition of the word culture. Pag sinabi natin culture is taken in its broadest meaning, the ways of life, highlight natin ito, the ways of life and habits of thought which are acquired or learned, or the totality of what man has acquired or learned. Okay, sa mga videos ko sa UCSP kung napanood na ninyo, I already discussed there the definition of culture. Okay, but i-attach natin ang kultura ngayon sa civilization. To simplify the definition of the word culture, this is the ways of life of a certain group of people. Ang kind of lifestyle, ang pamumuhay ng mga grupong ito. Yan ang tinatawag nating kultura. Na unique po yan from different parts of the globe, from different community, and from the other group, not to be exact. So nagva-vary po ang culture as how it is being practiced by different groups here in this world. Okay, so nakalagay dito, habits of thought which are acquired or learned. Meaning to say, ang kultura po ay nasi-share at ang kultura po ay natututunan. One of the best example, pag sinasabi nitong culture can be learned, is ang lingwahe po, because language can be learned. It depends upon the willingness of the person kung gusto niyang matutunan ang isang lingwahe. Correct? O sige, that's one of the manifestation. Okay, now let's proceed to the definition of civilization. So, pag sinabi nating civilization is always associated with or as defined in historical parlance would mean a conglomeration of culture. Okay, meaning it is composed of numerous cultures. Highlight natin pag sinabi nating civilization, ituon natin ang ating attention on the idea of conglomeration of culture, meaning to say one culture additional with the other culture plus another culture. That is what you called civilization. So to illustrate this particular idea, bigyan ko kayo ng example para mas lalo ninyong maintindihan. Okay, this is the idea coming from Arnold Toynbee. Kasi sabi ni Arnold Toynbee, ang civilization is mayroong rise and fall. So parang ganito ang disenyo ng isang culture. Okay? Diretso pa yan doon. So, meaning to say, ito yung kultura mo. This is how your culture starts. Okay? Diyan ka ipinanganak, for example. So, through socialization, okay, you encountered a lot of people, a lot of practices, a lot of lifestyle na tututunan mo. Ang iba na embrace mo, ang iba naging party talaga siya ng buhay mo because of that particular interaction na nangyari. So, that is why, pag dumating ka na sa puntong ito, this is the zenith or the peak of that particular interaction. Okay, this is what you called civilization already. Meaning to say, naging develop ka na from a barbaric, uncivilized, savages na mga practices as how they defined, no mga ganong kultura, naging develop ka na. So this is now the concept of civilization. From here na culture, because of interaction, okay, of different people, so nagkakaroon ka ng civilization or na-develop. At tingnan natin ngayon sa aking discussion kung tunay nga bang nagkaroon ng civilization or successful nga bang nagkaroon ng civilization ang mga Filipinos before pa man dumating dito ang mga colonizers sa ating bansa. So in order for us to justify, kasi sabi ng mga colonizers, hindi tayo civilized. We are barbaric, savages, and what have you. Ganun ang konsepto nila. Pero sabi ng mga pre-colonial people, nagkaroon na po ng civilization before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol or other invaders here in the Philippines. So that is why nagkaroon po ng criteria of civilizations in order for us to measure if that certain group is already reached this particular peak of what we are calling civilization or a civilized group of people. So in distinguishing the civilized from non-civilized prehistoric societies, scholars have set certain criteria as indices for civilization. Okay? So these indices include, okay, meron tayong classification or mga indices na kailangan ma-trace in order for us to justify na ang grupong ito ay tunay ngang na-reach ang konsepto ng civilization. So ngayon, tingnan natin ang 8 konsepto na sinet po ng mga scholars in order to justify that a certain group is already civilized. So number 1, makikita nyo dyan sa whiteboard, meron tayong sinulat ito na government, laws, and warfare. Kasi isa ito sa tinitingnan natin para makonsider na civilized na po ang isang grupo. So sa atin po here sa Philippines, the unit of social organization in ancient Filipino communities with broader political, economic, and religious features than the family was the barangay. So mayroon na po tayong konsepto ng barangay. So if we are going to describe the concept of barangay, meron tayong 30 to 100 families that is considered as barangay. So the term was actually coming from the Malay word balangay. So later on, naging converted siya into the concept of the barangay. Okay, so ang barangay po ay pinamumunuan ng dato or raha. So meaning to say, meron na po tayo talagang system of government. Okay, meron na po tayong dato o raha na nagmamaneuver o nagsusupervise sa tinatawag nating barangay concept. Okay? In Southern Philippines, meron din po silang konsepto ng mga sultanate system. Kaya meron po tayong famous na Sulu Sultanate or Sultanate of Maguindanao and others. Okay? Meron din pong konsepto ang mga Muslim na Apangampong Coranao or the 4 principalities of Lanao that is considerable also as part of the government laws and warfare as to the criteria of civilization to measure about. Okay, meron din po tayong in terms of laws, meron tayong tinatawag na oral at saka written laws. Familiar naman kayo sa oral laws kasi sinasabi ko na po sa inyo na hindi po siya naisulat sa mga dokumento pero it handed down from one generation to another. Yan po ang konsepto. Pero pag sinabi nating written laws, meron talaga siyang procedure. Meaning to say, if you are part of that certain barangay for instance, okay, ngayon, isasuggest mo ang gusto mong mangyari sa inyong ng lugar doon sa mga elders. At saka after that one, the elders will deliberate with each other. Pag na-approve na yung suggestion mo, ngayon, ikakalat siya through the use of the omalohokan. Okay? Siya yung mag-a-anunsyo sa mga pagbabago, ordinances for example, or changes na nangyayari sa inyong barangay. Si omalohokan po ang mag-i-inform. Kasi noon wala pa namang Facebook, wala pa namang radio, TV, and any other communication na pwedeng gawin. So, ibabalita lang po talaga ito through the existence of the concept of umalahokan noon. Okay, tao po ito na magdi-deliberate, magdi-distribute or mag-disseminate po ng message. So, ganun po ang role ng isang umalahokan. So, meron na pong ganyang konsepto. And we also have, talking about the warfare, we also have the bagani, the concept of, or the existence of the bagani, where can be associated with soldiers. Nowadays, in our time, sila po ang mga soldiers during the pre-colonial period. So, kompleto po tayo ng setup. Meron tayong government, sultanate, barangay system headed by a dato or araha. Meron tayong oral or written laws na tinatransport ng isang umalohokan or dinidisseminate ang mensahe ng isang umalohokan. And we also have the concept of the bagani in a certain community or mga soldiers. Kasi very important po na protected po ang mga taong ito against invaders. Kasi hindi po natin kalaban ang mga colonizers during this time. Pinag-uusapan natin pre-colonial, pero may mga kalaban din po tayong iba't ibang grupo na gustong kunin ang lugar na to, especially pag fertile ang land at maganda siya for agriculture. There is a possibility na may ibang grupo naman ang gustong kunin ang lugar na yan, tendency. So kailangan meron po tayong presence of the soldiers. So second considerations natin pag pinag-uusapan natin ang criteria of civilization, we have the concept of the foreign trade. Anong ibig sabihin ng foreign trade? It has been an accepted fact that pre-Hispanic Philippines had already developed and lucrative external trade with the neighboring states. Ano ibig sabihin nito? Highlight natin, developed and lucrative external trade. Meaning to say, before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol and other colonizers in the Philippines, nagkaroon na po ng developed at saka lucrative, meaning to say, kapaki-pakinabang na trading between the Philippines or the pre-colonial people to the neighboring countries. Namely, sino-sino sila? Namely, Hindu contacts or people in India. And of course, we have the Chinese contacts, people in China, and sa Arab nation, we have the Arab contacts. So, ganun po. Etong tatlo na itong grupo is nagkaroon na po ng develop at saka lucrative na trading before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol. We also have the concept of tabu, pasar, and padian. Are you familiar with tabuan in our vernacular here? Tabuan meaning to say nang doon ang nodal point, nang doon ang mga business, products, mga basic needs ng isang tao na kung saan if you are going to picture out tabuan or in Southern Philippines kasi nung nag-aaral pa ako sa emission, naririnig ko talaga ang lugar na padian. Meaning to say doon sila bumibili ng mga pagkain at saka mga basic needs ng isang tao. So ang konseptong ito ay nabuo na po before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi nga, kung titingnan natin, meron na pong foreign trade na nangyayari before pa man nagkaroon ng colonization sa bansang Pilipinas. Okay? So that's how. Check na tayo for number 1 and number 2. We also have the system of beliefs and religious practices. Isa din po sa tinitingnan sa criteria of civilization ang konseptong ito. One of the dominant concept was their belief on the life after death. So, mayroon na pong konsepto ang mga pre-colonial people ng life after death. Okay, na nabuhay ka ngayon, but at the end of the day, you are subject for death. So, ganun na po ang konsepto ng mga pre-colonial people noon. Paano siya na-justify? Because of the presence of the burial jar was recovered in Manunggul Cave, Palawan. Okay, because of that particular evidence, na-prove nila na nagkaroon na po talaga ng konsepto ang mga pre-colonial people when it comes on the concept of the life after death. Okay, kasi noong unang panahon, ang burial jar po ang nagsisilbing casket or coffin ng isang namatay. Basically, yan ang nilalagyan nila. So, malalaman mo kung isang tao is influential, mayaman, malaki ang posisyon niya sa government or sa kaniyang society because ornamented po yan with a very intricate design. Pag sinabi nating malaki ang posisyon niya sa inyong society. So yan ang pinaka manifestation. That's how your status in the society is being illustrated. Because di ba nga sabi ko sa inyo, in order for us to justify na ang isang event ay historical, dapat pumasa po siya sa tatlong criteria. What is written, what is said, and what is physically preserved. So dahil nakita natin na may burial jar and it was recovered on the pre-colonial era talaga, nung panahon ng pre-colonial era, matitrace back natin ang katandaan ng burial jar na yan. So, na-define talaga natin ang konsepto. That proved to the idea na meron talagang konsepto ng life after death ang mga pre-colonial people because of this particular concept. And we also have the idea of the babaylan or the baylan, or on the other term that is katalona, or the priest or the priestess during those particular times. So, meaning to say, let's correct our notion kasi ang mga tao kasi pag sinabi nating babaylan, they usually associated that kind of idea sa mga kababaihan. No. Pag sinabi po nating babaylan, that can be associated to both men and women. Because ang role po ng mga babaylan, according to the Visayans people, this is the medium, okay, between the human beings and of course to the spirits. This is how they are going to communicate. So meaning to say, mediator po ang mga babaylan in order for us to communicate what we want to see to the, what we want to say to the spirits na pinaniniwalaan po ng mga pre-colonial people. Okay? Of course, wala pa silang konsepto ng other religion na kung saan present ngayon because long before, paganism po talaga ang pinapractice here in our country. Yan po ang simula ng ating paniniwala. Okay? But to the concept of the life and life after death, meron na po ang mga pre-colonial people. Now, let's proceed to the criteria number 4, which is the system of writing, art, and literature. Okay, Spanish chronicles like Fathers Pedro Chirino, Plasencia, and Collins wrote that the residents of the communities they visited were highly literate. Here in the Philippines, talking about places here in the Philippines na na-visit ng mga pare na ito, okay, mga Spanish friars po sila or mga Spanish chroniclers, pero sinabi po nila sa kanilang mga writings na meron na pong existence ng tao dito sa Pilipinas na mga literate already because before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol, mayroon na po tayong system of writing na inspired by Sanskrit. Okay, so ito po ang konsepto ng alibata because that is how we are defining the syllabic writing already na na-develop dito sa Philippines. Okay, there is already the presence of the concept of alibata. So in terms of system of writing, meron na po tayo. And of course, ang mga Filipino, meron na rin po silang mga designs sa art, which is the ukil or the ochre design in the southern Philippines. Napakaganda po nito. Kung ma-witness nyo po ang ochre or ukil, napakaganda po ng disenyo na ito. And of course, we have the famous epic ng pre-colonial era. We have the biag ni Lamang. Usually po ang mga epic is nagre-represent po yan siya sa kultura, customs, and tradition of certain people. So ito po ang storya talaga ng biag ni Lamang. Kung nababasa nyo po or kung nabasa nyo po sa inyong panitikan ang biag ni Lamang, that's how we could be able to describe and to explain this particular concept. Pero going back to the criteria, na-develop na po ang literature even before the coming of the Spaniards. That's how we have to justify the concept. Okay? I hope you already get the point that I'm talking right now. So let's proceed to number 5. We have the efficient technology. Number 5 criteria is efficient technology, which means archaeological artifacts recovered from all over the archipelago revealed that our stone tool technology dates as far back as 10,000 BC. Kung i-describe natin ang 10,000 BC, not only here in the Philippines but in the entire world, ang panahon po na ito, 2.5 million years ago to 10,000 BC, ang konsepto po na ito ay hunting and gathering season po ito. Meaning to say, ang gamit po, the concept of society is hunting and gathering through the use of stone tools, okay, or any matutulis na bagay that they could be able to hunt successfully wild animals in order for them to survive. Pwedeng mga buto ng tao na pwedeng gamitin, basta matutulis na bagay. So, kung titingnan natin ang kagamitang na-develop ng mga Filipinos before the coming of the Spaniards, 10,000 BC, ito po ay may association. The same po ito sa mga na-develop na mga stone tools ng iba't ibang portion ng mundo. So basically, ganun po ang konsepto na napatunayan po natin na nagkaroon na po ng efficient technology before pa man po dumating ang mga Spaniards here in our country. So let's proceed now to number 6, which is the predictive sciences. So here naman, the mummification in the Cordillera, a practice dated by the scholars to have started as early as 200 to 150 BC, also revealed that the ancestors had possessed some knowledge in biochemistry already. So highlight natin pag sinabi natin predictive sciences, the concept of mummification, meaning to say the concept of preserving the dead body of a certain person. So na-develop na po yan before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol. So, di ba, pinaniniwalaan na meron na pong idea ng biochemistry because pre-colonial people knows already how to mix mga chemicals para ma-preserve po ang dead body ng isang tao before pa man dumating ang mga Espanyol. So, that's one of the manifestation na na-develop na rin po ang tinatawag nating predictive sciences during those particular period. Okay, so let's proceed to number 7. We have the big population. In the West, they call this center cities. So talking about West portion, mga American people, European people, tinatawag nila itong mga center cities. We did not have cities like those in Europe, but we had the trading centers. Kasi nga po, dito sa ating number 2, na-develop na po ang ating foreign trade, correct? So of course, meron po ang Pilipinas na tinatawag nating trading centers. Similarly naman po, the Egyptian and Aztecs. So pag sinabi natin mga Aztecs, commonly po ito nasa mga Latin American people. Okay, mga Mexico, Peru, Puerto Rico, yan po sila. Okay, similarly, the Egyptian and Aztecs did not have cities for they only have ceremonial centers. So yun po, pag sinabi nating Latin American people, meron or mga Egyptian, they have the ceremonial centers. Pag sinabi nating mga European people or the west portion of the world, meron naman po silang mga center cities na tinatawag. Okay, pero dito po sa Philippines, we also have trading centers, the nodal point, the place where a lot of people is being gathered together at that particular time I'm talking. So ganun po ang konsepto. So meaning to say, as to how we are going to justify the idea of big population, meron na po talaga tayong ganung concept before pa man po dumating ang mga Espanyol dito sa ating bansa. Okay, to clear things out. So now let's proceed to number 8, which is the megalithic structures. Okay, accordingly, we did not need to construct Egyptian pyramids, okay, or the Pyramid of Egypt, the Chinese Great Wall, or yung pinaka-famous na Great Wall of China. Wala tayong ganon, or hindi natin kailangang mag-create ng ganong konsepto. Okay, Buddhist Temple Angkor Wat of Cambodia and a Borobudur temple in Indonesia. Kung familiar kayo sa mga famous na mga structures na ito na nandoon po sa ibang bansa na na-create din po ito sa panahon kasabayan po ng konsepto natin ng pre-colonial period. Okay, meron po ang iba't ibang bansa nito. Meron ang Angkor Wat ng Cambodia, merong ang Temple of Borobudur ng Indonesia. For we did not have despots and tyrants as leaders. Wala tayong ganong konsepto kasi sa ating kultura. However, our ancestors built rice terraces like the ones found on the mountain sides of Banaue. So yung pinaka-famous nating tinatawag na Banaue rice terraces. So that can be associated to the Angkor Wat of Cambodia, to the Temple of Borobudur in Indonesia, the Great Wall of China, of course nasa China, and any other megalithic structures na makikita po natin sa ating mga neighboring countries here in Asia. So meaning to say, as to how we define the criteria of civilization, lahat po ito ay pumasa, okay, sa mga scholars. Meron po tayong maipapakitang mga evidences na before the coming of the Spaniards, okay, nagkaroon na po ng civilization ang bansang Pilipinas. Yan po ang dapat nating i-correct in this particular generation, okay? Kasi sinasabi po ng mga colonizers, even nung dumating ang mga Americans dito, matapos tayong kinontrol ng mga Spaniards for 333 years to be exact, sabi ng mga Amerikano when they came here, hindi pa daw civilized ang mga Filipinos. Okay? Nung dumating naman po ang mga Spaniards dito sa ating bansa, okay, particularly the coming of Magellan 1521, 'di ba sinabi din po nila hindi po civilized as how they describe the people. Hindi po civilized ang mga pre-colonial people. Pero according to the data, the facts gathered as to how we could be able to explain the concept of civilization, pumasa po ang Pilipinas sa criteria na iniset po, okay, as indices ng mga iba't ibang scholars from different parts of the globe. So that is why, to answer the concept, no, sa ating tanong sa ating pinaka-title, civilized or non-civilized, talking about pre-colonial people, tandaan nyo po ito sa lahat ng mga nakapanood ng video at sa lahat ng aking mga estudyante, you always have to think, before the coming of the Spaniards, nagkaroon na po ng civilization ang bansang Pilipinas. Mayaman po tayo sa lahat ng aspeto ng buhay. Though that's a simple living only, okay, primitive way of living, kasi yun lang naman po ang kaya nila, kasi hindi pa naman masyadong develop ang mundo that time. But talking about civilization and how the concept should be applied, let us claim po, and based on facts po ito, na ang mga Filipino ay civilized na po prior to the coming of any colonizer in this particular country. So to give you justification para mas lalo nating maintindihan ang definition ng civilization, pakinggan niyo po ito at babasahin ko po ang konsepto ng civilization na kadugtong po sa definition na ibinigay ko sa inyo kanina sa konsepto po ng civilization. Civilization in general, it is a superior culture. A culture deserves to be called civilization when it has reached the stage of advancement in writing, has come to be used to its considerable extent. Some progress has been made in arts and sciences, politics, social and economic institutions to at least conquer some of the problem. So, simple lang po ang mensaheng ipinapakita ng video na ito sa inyo. Before pa man po dumating ang any colonizers, any invaders sa bansang Pilipinas, civilized na po ang mga Filipinos. And we should have to declare that one, and we should have to claim that one, and of course, we should need to be proud of that particular development that occurred in our country, Philippines. So that will be all for this morning. I hope you learned something from this video, and I hope that you will share this video to your friends and to anybody else that you think na kailangan ng video na ito. Asahan niyo po that Sir Job TV will continue to discuss more meaningful discussions, especially in the world of social sciences. Thank you once again for watching. Bye-bye!